So moving on. Extra seats coming in. I will get started though, however. So tonight it's the ordinary council meeting of Devonport City Council held on Monday 22nd of May 2023 at 5:30. Thank you for all those attending. Devonport City Council acknowledges and pays respect to the Palama Pakenham people as the traditional and original owners of Lutruwita and continuing custodians of this land on which we gather. We also acknowledge and pay our respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal elders past and present. Apologies tonight. We have one which is Councillor Damien Viney. Any declarations of interest, item 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Councillor Moore.
Is it coming up? No. Oh, it's not coming. Sorry. Yeah, I'd like to declare a declaration of interest. I will be staying in the room. My son is one of many people that do play for the youth strikers.
So the item number was?
Sorry. Is 3.4.
3.4.
Yeah.
No problem at all. Any other declarations of interest? No? Thank you very much. So moving on to item 3. 3.1, confirmation of minutes. If I could have a move of the recommendation, please.
So moved. Second.
Councillor Murphy and Councillor Ennis, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Disputed procedure, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 3.2 is public question time. 3.2.1 is responses to questions raised at our meetings which are nil. 3.2.2 is questions on notice from the public. We have a recommendation there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Councillor Martin and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just note that this is pretty really bluff earning and installation of bollards at the bluff area. I just want to note that other citizens have also contacted council in regards to these incidents of hooning, animal cruelty, and endorse that people should contact police in this type of behaviour if it's witnessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy, any comment?
Yeah, nothing further, Mayor. Councillor Martin's covered it.
Thank you. Any further comment? No, Councillor Martin.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 3.3 is questions on notice from councillors, which there are none. And 3, oh, where have I gone? I've missed one, sorry. I do apologise. 3.2.3. Questions without notice from the public. I do apologise, Gary. 3.2.3 is questions with notice from the public. Anybody wanting to ask a question, you can come up to the dais. Please say your name and your address and then state your question. Thank you.
Yeah, Brian Jones, 22 George Street, Devonport. Just some, I don't know if it's a suggestion, question, whatever. It's to do with the utilisation of the walking cycling tracks, which will eventually join Portsmouth all the way through to Wynyard, I guess, in the long run. Has any thought been given to the actual utilisation of these tracks as far as people cycling, etc., and rather than have to ride the whole length of the thing between, say, Devonport and Alderson and ride back again, if there's any thought being given to having the public transport fitted with some form of bike rack or whatever, so people can break up the journeys into daily trips or half-hour or 4-hour trips. I know in Queensland, or in Brisbane at least, and I've got a feeling in Adelaide they have bike racks on the fronts of the buses. You don't need a living great trailer, but I mean something carrying, say, half a dozen. With the new form of bike racks, you can just rack them up on the back type of thing. That was a suggestion to fully utilise, because there's a lot of money going into it. And when I do a little bit of cycling, but I mean, I wouldn't commit myself to riding from here to Alderson. But if you could do a partial trip, then make another partial trip the following week, and just people could, it's a good tourism thing too as well. It just migrates people along the coast.
Thank you.
And I think walking is probably the same issue. The bus trip, I think the buses travel roughly the length of the proposal, what the end feature will be. But I'm not too sure how the buses relate to the tracking itself, but it's something to maybe look into as far as the future plan.
Thank you. Well, I certainly note your suggestion. It's fantastic. And I'm certainly happy to talk to you further about it if you'd like. It's certainly something we could then put to those powers that be.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the contractor, I guess, here, whether they're prepared to pay it or put the bill or state government gets the money for it.
Cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, Denise Pretty, and I live at 41 Bluff Road in Devonport. And I'm the person who raised the issue about the wallabies and the ground being torn up in the reserve. And there I was wondering if you would allow me to just give each member of your council just one of these clear leaf envelopes. It has in it my original letter of complaint, 16 photographs that are extremely relevant to what's happening up there, and an idea of why I took that photograph. Not for them to read tonight, but if they could, at least in their time away from here, to actually look at them.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. You can just leave them on the table there, and then staff will make sure that we all get one.
There's 10.
Thank you very much.
What I did want to say was originally I had found it quite difficult. I love the reserve. I enjoy the area up there greatly. Noticing the hooning going on up there, I've removed many bodies and put them into the tree line. But I started actually photographing from the 8th of May on after a particularly bad weekend where the hoons actually ran down the animals.
Ms. Pretty, tonight's your opportunity to ask a question if you do have one.
My question is in relation to protecting the wildlife up there and to stop the hooning on the reserve is to put bollards in and boulders to prevent that from happening, but we need an immediate action, some other issue to resolve it, because these animals are being mowed down every night. And I thought perhaps maybe the council could lock the gate. Sunset is 5:02 p.m. It is pitch black up there at 5:30 p.m. Gates open in the morning, supposedly at 7:30 a.m, but in actual fact they are open at 5 a.m. in the morning. So some of the deaths are actually occurring between 5 a.m. and when the gates should officially be open. They're meant to close at 9:30 at night, and in actual fact they quite often are open well after 9:30 at night and still haven't been locked. And I've been going up there every night and actually spending 3.5 to 4 hours to catch the people doing what they're doing up there.
Thank you. Have you called the police when you
Yes, and it's been a waste of time, excuse the expression. Unless you can provide video footage or photographs and actually witness it, you can't do that up there. It's pitch black up in the reserve. A flash photograph goes for about the length of a person's arm, and then it's completely lost in the dark. And you can't video at all because all you can see is black. And if it's not the black, what you can see, you're completely blinded by LED lights, huge driving lights, light bars, and the animals are stunned and dazzled by the light. They don't know what's happening and they're just mowed over, basically.
Thank you. Just bear with me for a moment. Thank you.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Like we've set out in the written reply there, Council share the concern about what's happening. Our advice is certainly still contact the police if you do witness that, and they may be able to do something. But we're also considering what operational changes we can make that might be able to address that, and that does include, I understand there's an area near the bird gate where cars are getting around. There's some boulders that, if they're not there already, they will be very soon. And also through the budget process, Council will be looking at some options to put some more permanent barriers up there.
And they would not consider closing the gates earlier and actually opening them at the correct time?
Yes, it's through you, Mayor. That's another one of the operational things that we're looking at, the opening hours of the bird gates.
Is there a time frame for that?
It's through you, Mayor. That's ongoing.
Okay. Ms. Pretty, if I may say, it is hard because on the other side we have tourists or people that are up there in the bluff and at the lighthouse that we have to say, sorry, you've got to get out now, we're about to close the gate. And we've got to allow that, as you can understand too, because it is for everybody up there as well, other than the idiots that are doing this. So we do have those people that we've got to take into consideration as well. So we're just trying to find the best way that we can do and get to that point, and we're absolutely happy to work on that as soon as possible. Thank you. Appreciate your information you sent to us. Thank you. Mr. Janney. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you, Mayor Jarman. My name is Douglas Janney, 23 Watkinson Street, Devonport. Item 4.1 of tonight's agenda prompts me to raise a matter of cycling on Don Road at Kerrison's Corner. The road in each direction is a hazard when there is a cyclist and a motor vehicle, and it is potentially hazardous for the cyclist. The question is, what will the council do to address this issue of hazard for the cyclist now, or when the agenda item 4.1 gets approval to proceed?
Through you, Mayor, we'll come back to Mr. Janney with a written response in regard to that matter.
Thanks, Mr. Janney. Appreciate it. Any other questions from the public tonight?
Is that just on 3.3 or other questions?
If you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, you can please state your name and address. Thank you.
Edmund Stewart speaking. 264 Paluna Road is my residence. I'm asking the question of the council and the councillors whether on the issue of speed limits along the Paluna Road, has any council officers during their investigations of the issue, has anyone travelled at the recommended 100 kilometres an hour along that stretch of road? And during the times of going to work and coming home, I think it's very important that someone's actually done the speed test, because it will reveal how dangerous that track of road is compared to the Melrose Road that is now 70 kilometres an hour and a lot safer.
Thanks, Mr. Stewart. We will be discussing this at that time. Thank you. Any further questions from the gallery? We'll move on. Thank you. As I said before, 3.3 is questions on notice from councillors, which we have none. So 3.4 is noticed as a motion. 3.4.1 is a request for 2023-24 budget allocation, Devonport City Soccer Club.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. And a seconder, please.
Seconded.
Councillor Hollister. Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. This motion was submitted as it is an important opportunity for our city, economically, socially, and with many health and wellbeing benefits. It was put independent of the budget process because of its value, its costs, and to be transparent, providing the wider community with details surrounding the proposed project, starting with 4 years ago, 2019, the Devonport City Soccer Club and Council commenced developing a master plan for the Valley Road Centre with the intention of ensuring Valley Road become a regional facility. By doing so, it further strengthened the submission to the 2023 Women's World Cup for the City of Devonport to be considered as a base camp and to enjoy the positive economic impacts it will bring to the city as a whole. Whilst the City of Devonport was unfortunate, finally overlooked as a World Cup base camp, the work around Valley Road being developed as a regional facility should be continued so as to grow community participation in healthy activity, cater for grassroots football, host local matches, community entertainment events such as carols by candlelight, be ready to take up future opportunities including Australia Cup matches, national youth camps, national youth championships and senior competitions, sister relationships with the City of Geelong, as well as sister relationships with the Western United Football Club, and with Tasmania and ACT identified as the next potential entrance into an expanded A-League competition. It places Valley Road as the most suitable venue to host A-League men's and A-League women's gains. And of course, to bring forward economic benefits to the city, estimated to be a further $2 million annually, with the opportunity to build upon each year. With all that in mind, there is discussion also around planning a new high-ball court facility for Devonport, with consultants appointed to explore possibilities. Devonport does indeed need a high-ball court facility to cater to growth and opportunity, but at this stage, a consultant's report has not been received or analysed by council, nor presented to councillors. This will take time if it's to be considered and to be a correct decision moving forward. Steps to consider would include choosing an agreed site, choosing an agreed model, 4 to 6 court, including a show court, the drawing up of a design, and such debate would also take time to analyse and agree. Once site, model and design chosen, community consultation should be undertaken, especially around the chosen site. Again, such would need time to ask questions, collect response and further discuss. Traffic impact studies will need to be generated along the way with other necessary requirements for such a large project. More time needed. Depending on the scale of the project, it is suggested additional funds in the millions will be required from the state and or federal governments to implement the project. Councillors have not been informed by council if this process has even commenced or that a required figure has been arrived at. This could only be commenced once the site, model and design has been agreed to, reports received and analysed and fully costed. All that needs a lot of time. So is it safe to assume that a high ball facility is a little while away? We are also aware that the state government is supportive of the Valley Road project, and if council funds such, I suggest they will favourably when the work is done to support our efforts for a new high ball facility. Here right now though, we have a project that has entered its 4th year, has been recognised as a high priority in the Devonport Sports Master Infrastructure Plan, formally adopted by Council in December 2021. In 2022, a planning permit was issued a year ago. Plus, since 2019, the Sports Master Plan, the Strikers have entered 2 new statewide teams, being under 21s and Women's Super League. The project that we're talking about tonight is fully costed and is shovel ready now. It can be and should be funded by council. The Devonport Soccer Club has historically been a self-funded club, owning and maintaining the majority of assets at Valley Road. In comparison to other facilities contributed by council, Valley Road has received $424,188 in 2029, compared to Devonport Oval $11.5 million, 27 more times than Valley Road. The Devonport Rec Centre $8.9 million, 20 times more than Valley Road, and Valley Road is 8th on the sports precinct's funding list. Devonport Soccer Club has continually proved its sustainability through increased participation, enjoying 7.5% growth since 2019, and is backed up with soccer recognised as the largest participation sport in Devonport, Tasmania and Australia. This project has met all requirements and is shovel ready for completion. It only needs funding surety from council to bring this opportunity and its economic benefits to our city to fruition. To delay supporting this project, it has a real chance of reducing its buying power, with construction prices escalating even as we talk. In other words, while we ask for the project, which currently stands at $1.5 million and $3 million, the ask most certainly will be more if delayed further. Remembering that this project commenced in 2019 by both council and the Devonport City Soccer Club 4 years ago. I ask that councillors make a decision tonight and continue to be bold and courageous, show the state government Devonport is a regional city making regional decisions, and provide surety for the Devonport City Soccer Club. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holster.
I don't have any problems supporting this motion.
Which I think is on. So, thank you.
I don't have any problems supporting this motion. It's still going to get through our budget process, and which we're doing right now. So that's the only thing that is actually shovel ready, and I think all the talk about a stadium at this stage is not relevant because it'll be several years before it's possible.
Thank
Nothing
you.
further add.
Any further comment? Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd just like to welcome, obviously there's a fair amount of community support for this particular notice of motion, as there is for the Devonport Strikers Football Club in our city. And I think it doesn't go unrecognised that through their efforts over many, many years, the amount of recognition that the club has brought to Devonport, not only for soccer, but as a destination. So I would like to foreshadow, though, that we potentially, if the mover and the seconder are happy, we amend or add to the notice of motion with respect to the 23-24 budget, $1.5 million, whether we could include some wording around with negotiation for the club, because obviously as a council we do have to be fiscally responsible, and we need to understand whether it's going to be from our operational budget or whether it's going to be from our CapEx budget.
So Councillor Murphy, what were you wanting to foreshadow exactly?
If the mover and the seconder of notice of motion are happy to include, we allocated in the 23-24 budget the $1.5 million as requested, either some wording around and through to the GM, how we would have that look like with respect to by negotiation or with negotiation with the Devonport Soccer Club to upgrade their facilities furthermore. So then the council can make a decision as to whether it comes out of our operational budget or whether it comes out of our capital expenditure budget. I know there has been conversations as late as December last year where this was given consideration with respect to communicating with the Devonport City Soccer Club with respect to, obviously, if it's capital expenditure, we would have to own it. If it's operational, it's a grant. So
we need to know what you want worded though, so that we know what.
Well, are you happy there, Councillor Martin?
If you provide the wording.
Allocating this 23-24 budget $1.5 million as requested by Devonport City Soccer Club, with negotiation with the Devonport, as requested through negotiation with the Devonport City Soccer Club. Because
you're only changing the wording to through negotiation.
Through negotiations, then we can get a commitment from the Devonport City Soccer Club as to whether it will be something they own or something that the council own, because there are some restrictions with respect to, or potential restrictions, with the $3 million grant. But rest assured, I'm wholeheartedly behind this.
So you want the rest of the motion to remain the same?
Remain the same, yep.
3 words to be put.
Unless the mover and the second are happy for you, where it says quarantine 3 million, quarantine 4 million. I'd much prefer to see that. That takes less operational pressure off the
We
council.
need a decision making.
With the mover and the second, to be happy to see $4 million quarantine.
I'd say no. I think that's further down the track. We don't need that sort of decision straight away. I don't believe. It's another budget.
Denied. Okay. Councillor Murphy, thank you.
No worries. So are they happy with the?
No.
No?
No.
No worries.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any further? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. If that is the situation, I would then be encouraging our councillors, if we're not prepared to make those changes, to support the notice of motion, for the simple fact being that the level of importance this places on infrastructure for Devonport and continuing the momentum that we've had through Living City is paramount. As I stated earlier, you cannot measure the benefit and the effort that has gone into from a community-based sporting club and what it has done for Devonport. And having been part of that and seen that over a lot of years, it is vitally important, even though it may potentially put some financial pressure on the council, that we continue to move forward.
Thank you.
Question.
Councillor Bill Chinsky, oh sorry. Can I let Councillor Wilczynski have a say? Thank you, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Shane.
My perspective on this motion is a positive one. I think Council's Sports Master Infrastructure Plan listed the soccer club's project as a high priority, not the highest, but a high one. The club is sustainable and the membership and participation is the highest of any sport in our region or our state area. Juniors to the state league with interstate and intrastate participation. Currently the only club to be capable of hosting an elite games in our region. The project administration, the project management to date has not cost council any funding. It's all been funded by the soccer club. There's been a solid business case completed and no notations from the Devonport City Council. The club has secured a state government grant and the state government has committed already in place and needing this to be acquitted or lose it. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. And we have both, I believe we need both, and we can have both, the Devonport Soccer Club development and a Devonport Sports Precinct. So we shouldn't miss this opportunity to say yes and be favourable to this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Shane. Just allowing people to speak first. Councillor Horsley, I will come back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Welcome to all the Devonport soccer members here this evening. Very nice to see you. Certainly so much energy in the room, and on a cold night like tonight, you couldn't help but understand how important this is to you. I'd like to thank your club president for his time this afternoon. He allowed me to discuss a couple of issues and get my head around the history of the funding application. A little embarrassed it's taken so long. I know government moves so much more slowly than the private sector, but I am usually working in the private sector space and it's hard to understand how long things take. Anyway, I won't waffle. I'd like to agree with Councillor Wilczynski's comments that I do believe we should have both. The development that you've got proposed for Valley Road is just outstanding and it's going to add so much not only to the sport but sports tourism. I reviewed a report from the triathlon, it was an exit report, which noted that we had 1,300 visitors, including almost 1,000 interstate visitors just for that. The money that sports tourism brings into the economy is something that we really need to chase and grow. However, to provide the $3 million out of the federal funding pool to the soccer leaves a gap with the sports precinct. And for that reason alone, I would like to look at this funding as part of the budget deliberations, noting that I would be pretty determined that you have your green light by the 30th of June.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that the Strikers are an amazing club who have done the hard work.
We need to just check that you're...
Press it again.
Thank you.
I believe that the Strikers are an amazing club who have done a lot of hard work to get themselves where they are. They create community and are a highly competitive club, and there's so many people in that back row that I know tonight. Unfortunately, I believe that this motion is ill-timed. I have no information yet on how this gift, is providing $1.5 million, will affect the budget, will affect people's rates, and will affect other community organisations around the city. In December 2022, Drew presented us with plans for upgrades for Valley Road, and I believed at that time that we were going to discuss this request and the implications at our budget deliberations, which are only 7 days away. Just like Councillor Sheehan, I will also be committed to the Devonport Strikers getting what they need. Unfortunately though, tonight, I can't see it as being fiscally responsible 7 days before we've deliberated on our budget.
Thanks, Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Martin, for your enthusiastic presentation of this motion. Like Councillor Moore, we're in the process of budget discussions now, and I think certainly it needs to be considered along with all the other budget implications that might come about. And I do note that our priority is for a high ball stadium. So in that regard, somewhere it will probably fit, but by taking money out of the infrastructure grant that was given, taking away, that puts that a bit in doubt. We're not really sure of where it might fit yet. So if it sort of if it became consider rather than allocate, I could probably live with that.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
Just like some clarification. Is Council now suggesting that the motion be amended in some way?
Well, yeah, I was saying that rather than allocate, consider.
It's the alternative recommendation.
So the move and the second, you have to accept it. You're making an amendment.
Or move the alternative recommendation.
Your thoughts,
Yes.
Councillor Ennis, do you agree with that?
Yeah, my thoughts that alternative would seem to do fit.
Yeah.
So we can foreshadow that. You want?
Yes.
Councillor Martin?
Motion stays as is at the moment.
That's fine. Yeah. So we'll hold that thought. Thank you very much. Look, you had a question.
Yes, I have a question.
Sorry.
To the General Manager and maybe even to Drew Smith. Does the club actually need the money in this financial year, or can it be over 2 years? So we need to allocate the whole lot in one go. That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I'm unable to provide any advice on that. Our advice as officers is that any expenditure of this scale should be considered as part of the budget process.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got questions? Okay.
Just a question on the Jean's comment with respect to that. For clarification, could it be considered that the funding be allocated over 2 years as part of the budget process?
Anything to be considered?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Our advice is that we don't have enough information to be able to answer those types of questions, and our advice would be to consider it as part of the budget process. That's been our advice from the start with this proposal.
Okay, we've got another question from Councillor Gorczynski.
No.
No? Okay. You turn your microphone on. Oh, thank you, sorry. Look, if I make a comment, I'll make a comment and then we'll summarise, yes? We're certainly aware of what this motion means. We're certainly aware of the contentious issue that it's presenting itself. We've got the soccer club sitting here looking at us, and we certainly know how important it is to this soccer club. But I will also note that if this motion wasn't put to us tonight, we would be looking at this situation and this request for this budget in 7 days' time at our budget deliberations. That's how it normally works. That's how I believe it should work. So that's where I'm at the moment. And I will ask Councillor Martin to close the debate and we will take a vote.
Before I do, Mayor, I'd be happy if somebody actually may look to move a procedural motion and adopt the alternative officer's recommendation.
We'll look at that.
Should somebody like to,
That's fine.
before I close.
Thank you.
So I would like to move a procedural motion with that to take on the alternative officer recommendation.
And I'll second it.
Now, you just want to vote first. We're going to take a vote.
It's a procedural motion.
Yeah, that's normally. They're changing the rules. We're having trouble with their microphones too. I do apologise.
Yeah, look, my advice to me normally would be that you someone may foreshadow, should the motion be lost, that they would then move an alternative motion. And that would be the alternative that's suggested there. I guess the exception being, should the mover and the seconder now say they wish to change the alternative, that could be another avenue.
Easier avenue.
An easier avenue, Councillor.
I'd be happy with that, thank you. We'll change the alternative officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to that? You're happy?
Happy.
You're
Absolutely.
shaking your head that way, but you're happy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, would you like to speak to the foreshadowed motion?
No, I think it's quite clear that the
Thank you.
understanding of the council and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister, would you like to speak to the
No need.
reworded?
Nothing
Thank
been
you.
said.
Any further comments? Councillor Martin, to close.
Thank you. This is a very important.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I would then put it to the mover and the seconder of the motion, that the motion be reworded, that the deliberations consider a request from Devonport City Soccer Club for $600,000 or $500,000 and the redirection of $4 million from the Federal Sports Infrastructure Grant to upgrade their facilities.
That's definitely up to the mover and the seconder.
No.
No. No. Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Martin, to close.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Look, I think it's probably was a foreseen outcome, but there's no reason why we can't have a crack at trying to get it through. As I've said before, this is put up independent of the budgetary process, not to try and shortcut it, but to certainly make the public aware of the value of this project, not only to the soccer club, but to the greater city of Devonport, and in being bold and courageous moving forward. The thing that I say here, even though we are going to budgetary process, council can afford this, and if we're going to have the same discussion as a priority during the budgetary process, where we'll put it up and say yes, or will be a no, which could have been done tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you very much. Item 4, Planning Authority matters. I'll now announce that Council intends to act as a planning authority under the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for the consideration of agenda item 4.1. Just before I go into that, the gallery is very welcome. If you don't want to sit through the rest of the agenda, you are very welcome to now take your leave. Up to you, but I'm sure you don't necessarily want to sit through all these things that don't have anything to do with it. Thank you very much for attending. We do appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Item 4.1 is rezone 171 Steel Street from general residential to commercial and current permit for vehicle fuel sales and service at 171 Steel and 2 to 8 Don Road. There is a large recommendation there. If I could have a mover, please.
So move.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy and Councillor Hollister. Councillor Murphy.
As you've already stated, Mayor, there is an extremely large recommendation that will provide, again, I think this is a common sense approach from a planning perspective. There are quite a significant number of conditions that will be on this particular development. Personally, I think it's a good idea. However, we have been provided with some further information from the proponent, which all councillors have received. I think it goes to addressing a number of those issues. However, those conditions, and they've still got to go through an appropriate process to get to that next stage. So, look forward to seeing what happens.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
This place has minimal positions for me.
Absolutely.
I've been there for about 10 years. It's very interesting. It's taken over 20 years, 23 years, if we want to be exact, to go from a derelict property to something coming forward now. So I fully support it. I think it's about time that something was done on the site.
Thank you. Any further comment? No. Sorry, Councillor Wilkins here now. I'm struggling to see the light of your microphone. No, it's all right. Don't keep it to yourself. That's better. I can say now. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, I just think it's great to see the site being used again. And it's been some time, as Peter said, since something's been up there, but it's very much worth enhancing that end of the city, and I think it'd be a great thing. And of course, with all the recommendations that they've got to go through, I'm sure we'll see it again in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Murphy, closed. Oh, Councillor Ennis, I do apologise.
Yep. Sorry, I had a question. Is this the same, I'm not sure if this is relevant, but it is to me, is this the same proponent that's doing the one down on Formby Road that we passed and hasn't happened? Or
Yes.
Doesn't look like it's happening? I'm not sure.
We're aware that it most likely is, yes.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Murphy to close, please.
Yeah, consider it closed, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you very much. Item 5 is reports. 5.1 is the public land register biennial review. The recommendation is all there. If I could remove it, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy.
Second.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, Mayor, it's all in the report there for noting.
Thank you.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Councillor Sheen, did you have?
Yeah, sorry,
No, you're right.
random waving in the air.
I thought something was broken. It's okay.
No, it's all right with me. I just had a question. Attachment 5.1.2, the open space map grid 3. It's probably something you have to come back to me, but there's some land adjacent to council's open space which sort of sits in no man's land at the bottom of Percy Street. Previously there's been a little bit of confusion between whether it's Crown or council. Last year it was just denuded of any vegetation and left. It's currently still in that state. Just a suggestion or a question, could that be included in council's open space? I'm happy to come back to that another time.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I can answer that. It's actually Crown-owned land that we lease, so therefore it doesn't go on council's public land register. So the register is only for council-owned land.
Okay. Thank you.
So the answer's no.
Understood.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. 5.2 is the petition speed limits at Paulina Road. There is a recommendation there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Hollister
Second.
and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Hollister.
So support the recommendation. I think there's state standards and stuff for country roads and so forth, and I think where we can, we should stick to them. I know it is 100 k's in some of these areas, but it can be very hard to do the 100 k's around some of these roads. So, and a lot, instead of having signs everywhere from going from one speed limit to another, people should drive to the conditions, and that's what I think should happen here.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I do note that there were some administrative issues with the petition, but however, it has been accepted, and as it should. As having read it and looking at the information that's been provided in the report, the guidelines are there for us with respect to setting the speed limit such that do not support change to the limit for isolated hazards such as intersection and tight bends. However, it says here an intersection warning sign should be installed in the crash. I think what Mr. Stewart raised, I think potentially it could warrant further investigation with respect to the speed on that particular road. And obviously some more line markings will also help. So I think with the recommendation or the conclusion that was in the report, if those actions are followed up, and then we then look at that again, monitor that situation, and then take further advice, we go a long way to addressing the issue.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Ennis, sorry.
Thank you. When Mr. Stewart was speaking earlier, I must have zoned out a bit, but I do remember the question, was there anyone from the council out there in the times of going to work and leaving work? Has anyone actually physically been on the scene while it has happened? Because I'm a bit of a believer that people should actually go and see these things and view what actually goes on with their own eyes and, actually there. Did that happen, or did it not, or did I during time?
Yeah, it's through you, Mayor. We're confident with the advice that's been provided. Officers regularly inspect the road and visit that section of road, as they do with all of our road network.
Thank you. Further comment, Councillor?
Sure. The microphone won't stay on. Yeah, I note that the planner's comments that according to the Tasmanian speed zoning guidelines, that should not be reduced for isolated hazards. But what I wanted to say was I think we really do need to listen to people that actually live in these areas. You're not idiots when there's risk. I had a similar issue near where I live, and you sort of between a rock and a hard place from a planning perspective, because you've got to be consistent, because that informs decisions down the track. But I noticed that there's a few suggestions that they've come up with. I hope that solves the problem, but if it doesn't, keep pursuing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Holster, did you have your light on? If you've got a question, because I will get you to stop on. Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Moore, did you? No. I will comment, just so that people in the gallery know, I'm actually from that area, and I do understand what you're talking about. I don't always go Paulina, I usually go Melrose. I'm from Melrose, and I do understand what you're talking about. One of the things that I've seen in the past with different areas that have had this issue, the first thing to do is to get the lines marked, and the lines make a huge difference for these narrower roads when you've got not just the locals, but people that are in the area that don't know the area. And it has made a huge increase in sense to the ones that are travelling on those roads. So please bear with us. I think this is a good move and I think it will help, and we certainly are happy to talk to you further if that's not the case. Thank you. So Councillor Hollister, any further comment? No. Councillor Hollister to close.
Actually, look at the picture on page 62. I spent from about a 5-year-old to a teenager at the post office, which was just on the right-hand side of that photo. And the corner you can see going up there to the house on the bend. There's probably 4 more corners between there and the Falls River that are just as bad.
Yep.
As long as there's adequate signage and that there, I think they should stay as they are. I've travelled that road off and on all my life, sort of thing, and I don't, never ever saw an accident at the time there. Not that I was there all the time, but I spent most of my school holidays there in younger days. Of course, there's a bit more traffic now. But I think the recommendation is the way to go.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you very much. So 5.3, reappointment of municipal recovery coordinator. The recommendation is there. Councillor Martin, thank you. And Councillor Wilczynski. Councillor Martin?
Thank you. Yes, the recommendation says it all. It's part of the normal process with council. But I do note that having Karen Hampton back on the hustings in this area, she certainly will provide some highly skilled background and would be, and has always been, a valuable contributor in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilczynski.
Yes, I just welcome Karen back. I've not been part of this side of the table, but worked with Karen from the other side, and she's always great to work with and very professional with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? No. Councillor Martin to close.
Consider it closed. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 5.4. Thank you. Thank you very much. 5.4 is Disability Inclusion Plan 2020 to 25, Year 3 status. If I can have a move of the recommendation, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. And a seconder.
Second.
Councillor Murphy. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. It's highlights the next 3 years with our inclusion plan for Devonport, so it's procedural, it's important. And I do know that there's a key progress area advocate for accessibility to education and training for people with disability. And I know the council has made a submission for the closure of the Northwest Support School and the amalgamation of that into the Penguin, or proposed Penguin site. Just a quick update that the parents have formed a parent action group representative of Burnie and Devonport parents. They've written to the Minister for Education advising him that the parents action group reject Penguin as a site because it's deemed not suitable. They call for the Minister and Department to appropriately fund and staff purpose-built schools in Burnie and Devonport, and that real face-to-face consultation with all school parents be implemented. Because there's a lot of parents out there that are involved with the school that are not IT proficient, find it very hard to keep up with day-to-day issues other than caring for their children. And that's a full-time job and requires all their attention. I also note that a petition will be handed into the state government tomorrow by Shane Broad MP. It basically outlines that the parents of these children and students certainly want to retain the schools in their local municipalities to enjoy their local support groups, their allied health professionals, and having ready access to that, and being able to be on call to address any needs that their children may have whilst they're attending the school in the local area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, Mayor, it's good to see and read the report how much progress has actually been made in that period of time. Noting that myself and Councillor Martin are the council representatives on that committee. So, you know, at least as we can still continue to bring those positive outcomes, that would be fantastic.
Thank you. Any further comment? I will say I've been part of this group for quite a while now, and it's been amazing. It's probably one of the best groups I've been part of since I've been in council, I have to say, because of the action and the respect and the inclusion that we give to the group, let alone how we really do take on board the wonderful feedback that we get from so many that are part of this. And I congratulate the staff and everything that they've done. We've had Carol Bryant also working with this group as well, and we really thank her for the time that she's been doing that. It's now back in the capable hands of Karen Hampton as well, and we know that we're very, very lucky to have Carol and Karen working with us. And I think that's what comes back to the organisations too. They understand they're not wasting their time. It's not just a talk fest, it is an action group, and I really appreciate all the work that's been put in over the years with this. And I can't wait to see what else we can achieve through this group. Thank you. Councillor Martin to close.
Thank you, Mayor. Inclusion and access should be front of mind with everything the council does, and is very important for our community, widely throughout our community, including visitation as well. Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 5.5 is the road network strategy for 23 through to 28. The recommendation is to adopt the strategy. If I can have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy and a seconder.
Second.
Councillor Ennis, thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Sorry, man, this is just merely procedural. I almost forgot to push my button.
Oh, there you go.
Look, we've been through the draft process. It's been out of consultation. There are a number of recommendations, 16 in total, which all aligned with where the strategy was going. They've been included into that. So again, it just shows council and how efficient it is in this process.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis?
Thank you. Yeah, let's hope this goes well.
Thank you. Any further comment? No. I certainly look forward to seeing how we implement this going forward. By 2028, I can imagine how busy the area will be with the different arterial roads that we have and how busy they are currently. So going forward, it's going to be an interesting time for us, and we're very well aware. When you're successful, you get growth, you get more people, you get more people on the roads. So we do have to be very mindful of that. So these strategies are huge tools that we utilise, and I know the staff do a lot of work with those. So thank you. Councillor Martin, Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'll hardly agree with your sentiments. The fortunate thing about being the place to live is we'll have more people living here and more people driving here. Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
And against? So moved. Thank you. 5.6, food organics, garden organics, which is FOGO, and waste collection. The recommendation is there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Moore, thank you.
Second.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Councillor Moore.
I am in full support of this recommendation. I'm just going over some of the notes. Approximately 40 to 50% of our domestic waste that's collected can now or will in the future be is made up of organic, and that can stop going to landfill. As a council, we visited Dolverton and the great facility it is, but I don't think we could lead without the burden of looking at those large landfill hills and hope that we could, as a city, do something to contribute to lessen our contribution to those landfill hills. The options that were presented to us at workshop were surprisingly attractive, with the move to fortnightly rubbish and fortnightly FOGO collection costing us approximately the same as the current cost, yet reducing our landfill bill for domestic by 40 to 50%. Of course, as a council, we'll have education for residents, plenty of transition information and time for adjustment. It only takes a little investigation of our neighbouring councils to understand the size of our bins as they are now, and the cutting down to fortnightly will not cause hardship to most of the population. I'd like to support the motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this has been coming for a long period of time. I think we all realise that. I think it's a significant opportunity to lessen or lighten our footprint on the environment, if you like. And but I think the strategy that's in place and the time frame in which we've got is a good one. And I think we will most definitely run a very good educational campaign. So people have got plenty of time to be forewarned that this is going to happen, so they're not frightened or overnight and be scared into, well, what am I going to do with my rubbish next week, and it ends up out in front of the council chambers. So bring it on. I think this is going to be good. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Further comment, Councillor Ennis?
Thank you. They say timing is everything, and I think it is with this. And really, we picked a really good time to implement it. And I think the key is the community engagement is vital. And I know Councillor Murphy touched on it, and so did you, that that's the really important part. So whilst we've been sort of mentally preparing ourselves for this for quite a while, the community hasn't. So it'll be all big news for them, and it's important that we use the strategy well and get ready for July 24.
Thank you. Councillor Shane?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, a couple of key things to note. As Councillor Ennis has just said, it won't start until the middle of next year when a lot of Darwin are ready to take the additional organic waste. And as we discussed in our workshop a couple of weeks ago, there will be a period where we do have the FOGO service, but hopefully the weekly service continues, so it won't sort of be just overnight suddenly no weekly service. I agree wholeheartedly with something you mentioned at the workshop, which is the communication strategy is just going to be done to perfection with this, so that people have a lot of lead time to understand what's going to happen. I think most people understand the benefit of FOGO. It's, even before I decided to put my hand up for council, everyone was talking about it. And finally, I do like the fact that it's cost neutral if we outsource. That's sort of the icing on the cake for me. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I think as a responsible community, as a responsible council, this is a great move by council. Even though, as we move forward, we're asking householders for an extra effort to lessen our landfill and the effects that that has on the environment. I think this is the way forward into the future, not just for this community, but statewide, Australia-wide, worldwide. We do have a lot of throwaway stuff, and we don't want it all ending up in landfill when it can be utilised in other areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister?
Yes, I'm supporting this as well. I think the key is education. I know Central Coast has quite a few residents dumping the new bins back at the council chambers, so hopefully we do a better job of educating our community than what they managed to.
Thank you. Councillor Wiltshire.
Yes, just backing everyone's thoughts here around the table that it's something we need to do. It's our responsibility to move forward with the environment and the community. And yes, education is number one. We've just got to get it out there consistently so it's second nature once we roll it out. But all good.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Martin?
Just a question of clarification in regards to what happened to Central Coast. It's correct that Central Coast uses 120 litre bins and Devonport uses 240 litre bins, and therefore the fortnight collection would be a different outcome as well. Is that correct?
That is. Good point. Thank you. Any further comment? I'll just point out very quickly, 5 to 6 years ago, I can't remember exactly when, I can remember council voted against FOGO. and I was part of that, definitely voting against it. It was going to cost per household between $60 to $80 extra, and I just think it's outrageous. The cost to each household was just unbelievable. Again, I'm the biggest person to say that we need a FOGO. We have done so much work, and not just Devonport Council, who have done an amazing amount of work, but the 4 councils that work together with Dalberton and our wonderful people at Dalberton and the board there have done such an immense amount of work since that we are at this point. And this is, I couldn't have dreamt that we could get to this point where it could be a cost neutral factor, where we can get to this point where we will be allowing our council to have FOGO being collected and done really properly. So I'm very, very proud of where we've come to from there, because it's quite depressing at the time. So I'm really, really pleased where we're at. And thank you to everybody that has been involved, from the staff here, the staff of all 4 councils, and as well as our wonderful team at Dalberton, because now we're going to have a facility that is legendary, really, and which is going to be incredible. So the more we can stop those hills, which you have seen at Dalberton, where we were 12 years ago to where we are now is frightening, of how much waste we do collect. And all I can say is, people out there, get rid of your plastic, stop buying plastic, stop as much as you can, and we'll have a better future for the climate and for the whole place. So thank you for that. Councillor Hostel, did you have a comment?
Question. I presume Dalberton should be more profitable after this. Does that mean we get a bigger dividend? Being the owners?
Oh, you can't probably say that. That would be lovely. Potentially, is from the GM. Potentially. Certainly always what we're looking at, George. This facility that we own. No problem at all. Councillor Moore, just on. Thank you.
Nothing to add. I think enough has been said. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 5.7 is the waste strategy, 23 through to 28. The recommendation is there. If I can have a move it, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy and a seconder. Councillor Wilczynski. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, all the work's been done. It's there for everyone to see. And interestingly enough, the 10 out of the 12 submissions that were submitted were for FOGO. So I think there is enough community sentiment out there that the expectation is that we will move in this direction, and it's a positive one. So again, it's there for everyone to see.
Thank you. Councillor Wilczynski.
Nothing further to add.
Any further comment? Councillor Ennis.
Councillor Murphy clearly not speaking rubbish this time. I support it.
So noted. Any further comment? No. Councillor Murphy to close.
I concur with my fellow councillors on all that's been said and consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. Item 6 is information. 6.1 is workshops and briefing sessions. The recommendation is there. No move, please.
Second.
Councillor Holster.
So in the report, any further information onto the actual investigation into the East Devonport pontoon? Any further costs or anything?
No, nothing further at the moment. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
I'm in the second.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Holster, close, please.
Consider closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. It's very quiet out there. 6.2, the Mayor's monthly report. The recommendation is there. If I can have a move, please. Councillor Wilczynski and Councillor Ennis, was that? Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Wilczynski.
You do a lot of meetings, Mayor. You could be very busy, and keep up the hard work and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Nothing further. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Murphy.
Just a comment there. I'm looking forward to the day you get it to 3 pages.
Oh, I don't. Thank you. Any further comment? No, thank you. Councillor Wilton, city close, please.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. 6.3, General Manager's Report. If I could have a move, please.
So moved.
And seconder?
Second.
Councillor Moore, thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Obviously, a very detailed report as per normal. Can the GM provide us an update with respect to the meeting with the Tasrail CEO and what's happening with the rail pedestrian crossing at the Waterfront Park, if there is any more information?
Oh,
It's through you there, no, nothing yet. Yes, nothing, sorry, to add. Raised a number of questions and that's currently being considered by Tasrail. I'm just waiting a response.
Thank you, and I just thought it'd be worth mentioning again, congratulations on the budget videos. Again, at the forefront of being able to provide the opportunities to the councillors to get as much information as they can with respect to this particular process, and the opportunity to re-watch that and to ask questions. I think it's critically important that we have that opportunity prior to coming together next Monday night.
thank you. Councillor Holster?
Manager
Oh,
again.
sorry, Councillor Moore, I haven't let you have the opportunity. Do apologise. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Holster.
Yeah, I concur with Councillor Murphy just in terms of the training for the new councillors. It's been excellent, and the videos actually work so well in terms of when we can watch them and how fast we can watch them as well.
Thank you. Councillor Holster.
Just going back to Tasrail, most uncooperative people around. We've got two main walking tracks going through the park, and one should be going to the barbecue area and the other one should be going to Muscle Rock. Did they come up in the discussions with Tasrail? The moment they go nowhere.
Through you there, that was the purpose of the meeting, to discuss those two crossings, and I must say it was a good meeting, a productive meeting, and I was pleased that the CEO took the time to meet and is considering the issues that we raised within their parameters in which they obviously need to work as the rail operator.
I've got a grinder in there.
Thank you, Councillor Hollister. Any further comment, Councillor Ennis?
Yes, just a quick question. I think that's the meetings with Coles and Woolworths people has made some improvement. I've noticed my regular drive past that there are less trolleys around. It seems to be working a bit at the moment, so good job.
Thank you. We had very, very good meetings with them. They've been amazing. So what Coles did was decide to do extra collections and also give us an idea of how else we can let them know where trolleys are other than just in that one spot. And Woolworths were already doing a really good job as well. And certainly now we've got access to the right people if we need to let them know anything. And they've just been wonderful. So we really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for noting that. Any further comments? Councillor Shane.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to note the professionalism of the budget process as well. I don't think that's mirrored all over the state or even the coast. And as a new councillor to have, a new session drop almost daily with Matthew and the team, just outstanding. I mean, you really have no excuse not to be able to talk to any element of the budget. The level of detail that's been given, and I think that speaks to council's transparency and professionalism, so thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to have that mentioned as well. It's always good to be able to pause on a video that you're watching and go back to it. So that's certainly helped as well. Absolutely. Any further comment? Councillor Murphy.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. 6.4, the monthly operational report, a recommendation is there. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Shane. The second one?
Second.
Councillor Hollister, thank you. Councillor Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a couple of questions regarding the report through you, Mayor. Item 2.2.1, pressure planning of the cenotaph, which was completed before Anzac Day. I'd just like to note that was a pretty sensible use of time. By extension, my question is, do we pressure clean paved areas such as Stewart Street in the lead up to Christmas or the summer tourism season? That's my first question. The second one was,
Let's just,
do you want to answer?
we might just take one at a time. Is that all right? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, there is a scheduled cleaning program, if you like, for the CBD streets. I'll come back, which during the budget process, we've got the frequency currently is.
Yeah, I just noticed, dabbled in shopping centre management back in the day, that the retail precinct during the summer and that those high volume levels, to me, it did seem a bit grotty. And I just wondered, we've got to be cautious with our budget spend, but I just got a question about the timing. My other question was item 5.5. I'm not fixated with this multi-jet, but I'm just fascinated by the income. I noticed it's 27% over budget, bringing in almost $250,000 a year. Why is that so over budget? Is that just sort of more people, more visitors? Is it more jobs in the city? Do you have a gut feel for why it's outperforming so well?
Yes. Through Ms. Lunson, thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. We anticipate that most of the above budget is a result of the Novotel use of the multi-street car park, because that wasn't factored into the budget for last year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, any further comment? Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. It's just worth noting in the report a couple of key things, especially with respect to the direction of where we're heading around being a smart city. I think now you're looking at the information that's going into Tech 1, especially around something as simple as when a bin at the bluff gets to 75%, water gets rid. Again, it's just it just shows how sort of much further along we are than any other LGA along the region, if not in the state. So, well done.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister, further comment? Question?
I know the parts have been brought up, which I've mentioned as well, but our rubbish bins, the tops of them, obviously they get washed, but it's obviously not enough because they're pretty grubby. And then outside restaurants seem to be terrible with just greasy. So the schedule needs looking at.
So noted with your question. No problem. Thank you. Any further comment? No. I will just say, and I can't help myself, I've just got to plug this. Devonport's up for Tassie's top tourism town. My word, we are. So if anyone's out there and wants to vote for us, they can go to the Tourism Industry Council Tasmania and vote for Devonport. And if we get a winner, this would be our year. So please, if anyone's out there and you haven't voted already, please do so. Thank you. Councillor Sheen. Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Section 7, item 7, section 23 is no needed. 8, closed session. Thank you, Councillor Martin and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Martin. Councillor Murphy.
Muted Stephen, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Martin first.
Stephen, close.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, Mr. Jenny. Nice to see you.